Battle and the Live Impact News Studio with us right now, Ultimate Fighter Season 29 champion. We got UFC competitor. This is just going to be such a fun chat. We've also got Amro joining us. Amro, for folks who are not familiar with the different roles that we have in news, Amro works on our assignment desk. And so you're taking phone calls, you're listening to our scanners, you are kind of in the main, crux of like gathering news for our team, but you are also super into martial arts. And so I know you're going to be a great addition to this conversation. How exciting for us to have Bryan Battle here with us, and Bryan, also just exciting for us to be able to claim you as a Charlottean.
Oh, man, thank you so much. And it's super cool being here right now, you know what I'm saying? Being someone who's been in Charlotte for the past 20 years, you know what I'm saying, having this opportunity is really awesome and humbling. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. And now we know you've been competing professionally for several years at this point. I did want to kind of like start off with, your vibe on like how Charlotte is maybe growing as a martial arts scene. I know there are certain cities here in the US and also around the world where it's just known for either martial arts or even, I remember I lived in Tampa for so many years, like wrestling was such a big thing there. How has Charlotte developed over the recent years, do you think, as far as the scene goes?
Well, I'd say Charlotte, Charlotte's always had great athletes, you know what I'm saying? The high school sports scene in North Carolina has always been like, nothing to, laugh at, you know what I'm saying? There's always been tremendous athletes here. I think, and even before me, there was great fighters, people like Keith Richardson, Ricky Rainey, you know what I'm saying? Several guys who competed in the UFC, Derek Brunson. But there was, as I was coming up, there was kind of like a feeling where it's like, okay, you get to a certain level and you got to go somewhere else, you know what I'm saying, if you want to get to that very next level. And, I think, especially with my success, a lot of people have been able to see it's like, okay, it's like we can fight out of here too, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we got all the ability, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing necessarily magic about going to Florida or, California or Vegas that's going to automatically make you UFC caliber, you know what I'm saying? So you either kind of got that mentality or you don't got that mentality.
Yeah. I mean, we know you're training with Carolina Combat Sports.
Yes, ma'am.
How has that seen, an impact, since you started training and fighting there?
It's shout out to my coach, head coach Tom Ziegler, you know what I mean? Me and him, he was my very first day one coach. Also shout out to my other day one coaches, Kevin Ferran and Tony Tan, like I said, CCS, we've been kind of growing together for a while, so it's been fun to see that, you know what I'm saying, fun to see people come in, and be inspired by, what the things that we've already achieved. I've been very fortunate, as I've got to, rub shoulders with like great champions in other places. Like, I've got to train with like Chris Weidman, former middleweight champion, Sean Strickland, former middleweight champion. My coach on Tough was Alex Volkanovski, one of the best fighters of all time. So I've just been very blessed to not only have a good community here, but also to have just like rubbed shoulders with some prolific fighters and just pick their mind and like, figure out like what's the difference between like, an average person and a great person when it comes to the fight game.
Yeah. I want to bring in Amro. So I gave you a little bit of a, introduction, but I feel like folks, to really kind of fully understand your interest and enjoyment in martial arts, tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not here helping us with the news, because I feel like this is one of the first things I learned about you, actually, when you were coming to do a job interview several months back for us.
Definitely not on the level that Bryan does it, but I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at Checkmat Charlotte under Michael Allen.
Yeah.
And
cornbread.
Y'all are getting into the weeds here. I love it.
Tell Coach I said what's up when you see him.
I will. I was training in Myrtle Beach, which is where I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Leo Silveira. And he had just moved here from Brazil, so I was really getting into it, and I was, training with a lot of guys that were from Brazil, and it was just a really cool environment to be in. And although I don't, train in a professional space, it was very, very cool to have it as like a hobby and something to kind of pass time with.
Yeah. I'm sure y'all can both attest to the fact that it probably gives you a certain level of discipline. It probably permeates into the rest of your life, right? Like all of these skills and the training that you go through.
Well, when I started training, it was really a bucket list thing. I had no background. I just started at 21. It's kind of like a little bucket list thing. I was 300 pounds when I started training. It's like I had, I had like delusions of grandeur, but I was also kind of like, okay, I dropped out of college. I was like, all right, I'll do a couple fights, depending on if I lose a couple, I'll go back to college or whatever, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, it's just like totally changed the whole outlook of my life, you know what I'm saying? Started finding success. Like I said, you have confidence that you didn't have before, you know what I mean? And the discipline, you know what I'm saying? It's like one of those things where like sports can translate to regular life, you know what I'm saying? When you deal with hardships in sports, like that can very well, when you have a hard time in life, it's like, okay, all right. Don't quit. Don't be a wimp, you know what I'm saying? Man up, you know what I'm saying? Handle your business, you know what I'm saying? And so, martial arts has done a lot of good things for me.
Yeah. I mean, Amro, what would you like to ask Bryan? I know you're
Honestly,
so excited.
I've got a lot of questions, but just where was the turning point in your career? Where did you think, oh, I really want to be in the UFC after this?
Well, like I said, I mean, when I first started training, in my head, because especially since I started so late, I was like, all right, whenever I lose my first fight, that's when I'll like chill out and I'll get like a regular job. But I actually got knocked out in my very first amateur fight. Got knocked out with a head kick in my very first game. Went viral and everything. Very embarrassing. And so I was like, well, I can't go out like that. You know what I mean? And so then I kept on fighting. Won the next 8, became like a highly ranked amateur. And somewhere in between those 8 fights, I was like, yeah, I think this is just what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm pretty good at this. I think I'm going to push and, try to become one of the best in the world.
And then ended up winning season 29.
And, ended up becoming one of the best in the world. You know what I mean?
So how's the local community showed you some love? I know that you found your gym here, you have your family here, your friends, but, have you walked outside in public and people were like, wow, that's Bryan Battle?
Yeah, no, it's, there's always like, anytime I go somewhere, there's always some like, random guy between the ages of like 15 and 30 who's like, hey, are you Bryan Battle? You know what I mean?
That includes me.
But it's really cool. It's definitely like I'm not the most, famous person by any stretch of the imagination, but like the love is like palpable. You know what I'm saying? Like I definitely feel like I take the energy from all of Charlotte into every fight. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel the support and the love like going into these fights. So it really means a lot to me. You know what I mean?
You fought last time in Charlotte, 2023, May of 2023, and you knocked out Gabe Green in 14 seconds, which he was favored to win that fight.
Goofy decision.
How is that feeling, walking into an arena with all the Charlotte fans, all these people watching you, even in the region,
Now, I tell you, that whole situation was like a movie, right? Because I'd always, like I said, coming up, you know what I'm saying, when you're fighting as an amateur, I had a former employer put it this way, and I thought it was very well put. Like, you're like a struggling artist, like, you're not making any money. You're working whatever jobs you can to pay the bills. I remember I'm driving to go coach kids at like a kid tournament, and I'm driving there and I'm like daydreaming about fighting at the Spectrum Center in front of all my friends and family, and like I'm getting teary-eyed. One time someone's parents, they drove by me, they were trying to like wave to me, I'm sitting in my car like just daydreaming, getting emotional about this fight. It's like the likelihood of that ever happening is like pretty slim, you know what I'm saying, especially considering how rarely the UFC comes to Charlotte. And like this fight, I wasn't supposed to fight Gabe. Another person was supposed to fight Gabe, and someone else pulled out. And someone let me know that, hey, this guy pulled out. I messaged my agent, hey, I'll fight Gabe. He's like, oh, yeah, you will? I was like, yeah. At the time I took that fight, the fight was still, the location was to be decided. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know it was in Charlotte. I thought it was going to be somewhere else. I had no idea it was going to be Charlotte. I'm driving from the strength and conditioning gym to my regular gym, and I had a teammate in the car with me. He was like, oh, you're fighting in Charlotte. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm fighting. I think it's going to be over here. He's like, no. And he shows me his phone and said, like, I said, UFC Charlotte. I was like, wait, that's the day I'm supposed to be fighting. And I'm telling you, man, I was driving, and I had to pick up my nephew from school the whole way. I'm not making eye contact. I'm sitting there crying. I'm like, oh, this is going to be. And once again, like, I was the second fight on the card. Like, if you go to a lot of cards, people don't normally start showing up till like around the main event. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of people there, but I'm the only person from Carolina on the card. So I walk out for the second fight, and like once again, the love and support, it was like a champion's ovation. It was like, I was like, whoa, this is, and I think it affected the other guy too, because Gabe came out crazy. He came out crazy, threw a 15-punch combination. I was like, hey, well, you sure you want to do this, big dog? You know, say, all right, that's what you want to do.
I heard the roar in the arena.
Boom, hit him with that right hand. He melts. You know what I'm saying? He melts. He collapses, and that's one of those things where it's like, there's nothing else in life that will feel like that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want it to end. Like, you see me, I'm still like trying to like get the crowd to like don't stop cheering. You know what I'm saying? It was incredible. It was really like a movie. So it was like one of those things where it's like, I'm really fortunate and blessed. You know what I mean? And you know, we're gonna have to bring the UFC back to Charlotte one day. You know, I'll be a little bit higher up on the card when that happens.
I'm sure that's extremely important to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I can tell that you have a big heart. I can see when you talked about picking up your nephew and the emotions that you felt. I know you've got kids.
Yeah.
How do you hope that they, you know, look at this and maybe take away lessons, or, you know, what I guess, you know, what is your message to them, and maybe anyone else who's just having a dream, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be mixed martial arts, UFC. It could be anything.
No, it's because I think it's pretty similar. Like, to come up with anything is pretty similar. You know what I'm saying? You know, very rarely is like the road smooth to getting to where you want to get, to, you know, getting to the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like perseverance. You know what I'm saying? If you genuinely like love it, and you genuinely like stick with it, and you're just like, yo, you know, no matter what bad happens, no matter what, you know, tries to take me off course, like, as long as you stay consistent, you stay grinding, good things happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the way it works. If you do good things, eventually good things will come back to you. You know what I mean? So it's just like, not to get discouraged and to get down on yourself, and, you know, don't look at other people. You know what I'm saying? Don't look at other people. Focus on yourself. Just get a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? Take things one step at a time, one day at a time, and you'd be surprised how things work out in your favor.
Amro, I know you had a couple other questions.
I have
I know
a lot of other questions. I mean, I can just pick
conversation.
one out of. Was fighting? I know that you said that fighting wasn't always part of your plan, but how long do you see yourself doing it for now?
Man,
Is this something you think you're going to carry on? That's it for the rest of your life? Is this?
No, it's hard, man. It's a hard way to make money. You know what I mean? And you know, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you have a window with it, you know what I'm saying? And I don't want to like be in a place where like I'm older, physically I'm declining, and I'm like trying to fight for money. You know, it's like, I fight because I love it and I want to be the best in the world. You know what I mean? So it's like, the moment I feel like I can't be the best in the world is probably when I'll just like step back and figure out what I'm going to do next. But you know, right now I still feel like I can be the best in the world, and, you know what I'm saying, I might be the best in the world. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. You know what I'm saying? Keep on lining up people and see what happens. You know what I mean?
So you're fighting August 16th, and you're fighting at middleweight.
Yes, sir.
Which is very different from the last few fights that you've had at welterweight. Is this like a permanent move up, or are you just kind of playing around in divisions, or are you kind of looking for a ranked fight later on after this?
We'll see what the matchmakers got to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, the matchmakers are my boss, so we'll see. I feel comfortable at either division. I'd prefer to go back to welterweight, just because, like you said, I've put a lot more work in at welterweight. There's a lot of guys that I've talked junk to at welterweight that I would like to settle the score with. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you know, I'm a fighter. You know what I'm saying? So whoever they give me to fight, that's who I'm going to fight. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's middleweight or welterweight.
And you're coming off now about 4 wins out of your last 5, and 1 being a no contest.
We can just call it 5 wins in a row.
Yeah, we could.
I was beating him up. If you didn't see that fight. He ran away like a, you know
Before the
what I'm
eye
saying?
poke?
Yeah.
I saw that, and I remember watching that fight and thinking, yeah, he could have kept going.
No, 10,000%. I'm not even going to get into it right now.
Oh, please do.
But
What do you got
think
to say?
this? You think this upcoming bout is going to be more of the same, what you've been doing? Because I mean, you only have a couple of decisions in the UFC,
Yeah.
and the rest of your wins are coming off finishes. You know, you have 2 or 3 submission wins, 3 knockouts. what are you looking at now? What are you hoping to get on August 16th?
No, we're getting a finish one way or another. You know what I'm saying? Whether I gotta drag them down to the pits of the third level of hell. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get the finish one way or another. We could do this the easy way or the hard way. The choice is his. But one way or another, we're not going to the judges' scorecard. You know what I mean?
This has been such an amazing conversation. I have seen a lot of smiles here in this Live Impact News studio, which, sometimes we get to report on really tough stuff, and it does hit us home, hard in the heart. But this is really, I can tell, like lifting some spirits having you here in the studio.
Awesome.
So we so appreciate it. Is there anything you want to leave us with before we let you go? Things that you're looking forward to, messages to the fans, anything, whatever you'd like to share.
Well, yeah, I guess on the outro is like, once again, thank you for having me. You know what I'm saying? This is really a big honor. You know what I'm saying? And then just a message to the fans. Thank you to all the real fans and the people that have kept on supporting me. It's like, as you would know, I had a fight in Paris where my profile really skyrocketed and no one had anything bad to say about me. And then I had this fight in December, whereas even though I won the fight, a lot of the fan base turned on me because they didn't like my performance. And you see how fast, things can switch just like that. As quickly as, you can come up and everyone loves you, as quickly as everyone can kind of like turn their back and say bad things. And so, but, in Charlotte, it's not like that. You know what I'm saying? My people in Charlotte, you know what I'm saying? Y'all my rock. You know what I'm saying? I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for the support. And if anything, I'd say go to the local fights. You know what I'm saying? Find some young guys who are on the come up. It means the world to a young guy. Go to a local fight and fight in front of not just his friends and family, but a packed crowd at the Grady Cole Center. You know what I mean? It makes a big difference, and it gives you confidence for when you do take that next step up, because you're used to the pressure and the eyes being on you and everything like that. So thank you for all the support, but don't just stop the support at me. You know what I'm saying? There's a bunch of young fighters, a bunch of guys on the come up that are right on the cusp of being at that next level. Keep on supporting those guys too.
I love that you took the time to acknowledge other folks too and making sure that they're getting their flowers as well. That's so great. I just love to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amro, do you have tears in your eyes?
That was a beautiful interview.
I know, you're so excited about this. This was such a pleasure. Bryan Battle, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Impact News.